evening, everybody, and welcome to our joint Facebook Live event between Rethink Live and Focus on the Family Malaysia. My name is Grace. I am a coach, and I'm also the founder of Rethink Live. This is Alex, my husband.
Hello.
We've
Nice to be
been
here.
we've been married for 15 years now. Yeah. And well, I just want to just welcome all of you here for our event here today. Before we introduce our speakers for the night, I actually want to kind of give you a brief overview, especially for those people who have never seen us before or never met us before. Well, Rethink Live is a platform that we started in 2016. Basically, as to be able to share content and information about marriage and parenting. So, I've been a photographer for many years, about 15 years now, and a lot of times I saw couples getting ready for the wedding, but not necessarily for the marriage. And so that was one of the reasons that we really wanted to create content to just share the stuff that we learn, right? And so that's one of the things that we're doing here is to actually have a Facebook Live session just to share information as well. So, okay, well, one other thing we want to introduce as our kids. You want to tell them about kids?
Well, we are blessed to have two kids. They do stress us out at times. Krista is 7, going on 8. And then we've got Kyle, who is 2 years younger. And well, during this period of this pandemic, they are schooling at home with us. We are shuffling between our meetings, but it's all good. We are still managing somehow.
Yeah, we are managing.
Actually, our kids said that they really, really enjoy the time with us right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they've gone bed, so it's okay. Today we have a very special guest in the house, none other than Focus on the Family Malaysia founder himself, Lee Wee Min, and his son Joel. They're joining us from Australia. So wow, thank God for technology. We can have conversations like this across borders. And lockdown or no lockdown. But before that, we are going to take a few minutes to welcome Executive Director of Focus on Family Malaysia, Benny Kong.
Hey, thank you, Grace and Alex, for that warm introduction. And yes, a special welcome and hello to all of you who are tuning in to this special event, Intentional Fathering. We're just really delighted to partner with Rethink Live for this event. Yeah, so thanks again, Grace, Alex, and the team. It's a joy to share this similar passion that you have for family and relationships, and to focus on such an important topic today, intentional fathering. Not if I have some spare time fathering or by the way fathering, but intentional fathering. I think I really love that title because I know all of us live such busy lives, me included. In fact, many of us are probably even busier in this pandemic than pre-pandemic times. So I think being intentional is even more important. Okay, let's see how many times I can use the word intentional. Yeah. Anyway, we're truly looking forward to hear and learn from Weemin, his son Joel, as you've mentioned, as well as Grace and Alex, on how we all can be intentional and what we should be intentional about. We also realize that some of you may not be acquainted with Focus on the Family Malaysia. So maybe just allow me to just quickly share. Focus on the Family is a not-for-profit organization we established in 1997 with a simple mission to nurture, support, and protect traditional values and the institution of the family. So strengthening the family is at the heart of all we do. So it's a real joy and privilege to play a little part in, just reminding spouses to love and be committed to each other, through programs like date nights and now even virtual date nights and other resources, and also to just reach out to parents, through some of the bonding events, parenting workshops, and especially I think in these rapidly changing times, just to support one another so that we can raise healthy and resilient children. We also run programs in schools and now I guess in homes to equip youth, to make wise decisions regarding their relationships. So you can find more resources, tools, and programs to support you and your family from our website. And maybe I just mention as well, if you or someone would like to talk to a counselor, just please feel free to reach out to us. We have a team of trained counselors as well. So that's family.org.my. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and I guess wishing an early happy Father's Day to all fathers and father figures. Well, back to you, Grace and Alex.
Okay, thank you so much, Benny. I'm so glad we have this opportunity to even interface with Women and his son Joel this evening, because I think they are great role models for us as we have this informal chat. We are just going to have some question answers as well, and we're also going to just dive into the relationship that they have with one another, the good and the bad, the insider stories behind this man and his son, who have been actually championing the landscape for family life over many years now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I personally would love to learn is what kind of legacy we can leave to our children. Uh, Parenting is not an easy task, and I think especially for fathers, sometimes we get very disconnected from our children because we have the so-called work or business that we need to run. But I personally feel that it should not be the case. But fathers should really play a very instrumental role in the relationship. So let me introduce Women. He's the founder of Focus in the Family and the regional director of Focus on the Family Asia. And he served on the National Population and Family Development Board of Malaysia under the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development for 15 years.
Yeah, that's really an amazing accomplishment. Okay, but before we see that and we start, I actually want to tell you some good news because we have women's book here called Intentional Fathering. It's a really good book. I haven't finished completely actually. Mother is reading the fathering book, but anyway, it's good book for everybody. We're gonna give away 5 books tonight. Okay, so it's a very easy way to win the book. As long as you reside in Malaysia, we will ship it out to you. All you got to do is just type in a question in our comment box, and then state the name of your children if you have any questions related to fatherhood or anything like that, and then state the age so that it's easy for us as well. Okay. Great. And then 5 winners will be randomly selected from a draw. And that's going to happen at the end of the night. All right. So it's great. So now let's welcome everybody, Women and his son, Joel.
Hello,
Yay!
everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Nice to see you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for coming onto the this Facebook Live event and just making time actually for having this kind of conversation with us, and also to all the other people who are online right now. Yeah. So
Yep.
Women, do share with us, because wow, I mean, like, you're the one who is like the guru here because you've been a father longest.
Yeah,
Share with us a
don't
little bit
don't
about
reveal my
your
age.
fatherhood journey. Yeah, could you share with us a little bit about your fatherhood journey? Do you see any differences, similarities between parenthood then and now?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thanks, Grace and Alex, for putting this event together. I was interviewed once by New Straits Times on what is my long-term goal for Focus on the Family. And I remember telling them that my long-term goal is that Focus on the Family won't exist anymore. And they were quite shocked with that answer. And I said, the reason why I'm saying is that if more and more people are promoting and talking and championing for families, we really don't need to be around anymore. And therefore, we just want to thank both of you for having this passion in reaching out to families, and now for inviting my son and I to just share a little bit about this fatherhood journey. So if you were to ask me what would be the difference between fatherhood journey then and now, I've been a father to Joel now for almost 33 years of his life. Oh, I beg your pardon, Joel. I got it wrong,
You
right?
revealed his age.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are similarities and there are differences. If you look at it, the similarities is that we still have 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week. That doesn't change, right? Question is, how do we make use of this time that we have? The other thing that doesn't change is that there's always a constant struggle of prioritizing our role as fathers. There's so many things out there to distract us, attract us, and therefore we get distracted, and therefore we need to really prioritize. Then the things that doesn't change is also our values. I remember when I've also put it in the book itself, that what are some of the values that I have learned from my own father that I want to also pass on to my children, Joel, Sarah, and Sandra as well. And therefore, one of the things, you can read the rest from the book, is the importance of communication. This doesn't change. Communication is like blood to the body. If the blood stops flowing, the relationship, the body stops functioning. If communication stops, then the relationship stops. And I think this is one thing that we pass on. Joel, you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks again, Alex and Grace, for having us here. It's a privilege. It's amazing that we can join from here in Australia. So yeah, and yeah, thanks. That I think communication is definitely something that you both my mom and dad have always been very intentional with passing on to us, both intention like explicitly in teaching us about good communication, but also implicitly in the way that they were very intentional with communicating their love, their care, and their values to us. So that's definitely something that I see similar, not just in the way dad has raised me, but in the way that my grandparents have raised both my mom and dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so those things didn't change. Now, what would be my experience of fatherhood journey now? And when I look and observe on what is happening now, it's really, really quite different from before. In terms of the knowledge that people have right now, it's so easily accessible. I think it was Charles Dickens in his book A Tale of Two Cities, which says we are living in the best of times and in the worst of times. Best of time in terms of the amount of resources that we have, but the worst of time in terms of the onslaught, the things that confronts a father, the challenges, is so much more now compared to before. The other thing is the communication channels has changed so much with social media. We can communicate so easily now. I think before that, when I travel, I spend hundreds of dollars on telephone calls because I just want to call them, and that's the only way to communicate. Right now, it's just sending a social media message, a WhatsApp message, and we are communicating again. The other thing would be really, if you look at it, the distractions today are so much more. And therefore, in order to do that, and that's why I wrote the book Intentional Fathering, to overcome the distractions, we just got to be intentional.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's right. I think a lot of times as you mentioned, there's so many distractions nowadays. I mean, I think the phone, our tablets, we got more devices around us than kids, I think, most of
Yeah.
some families, right? So it's definitely a lot of distractions.
So I'm not sure, the fact that there's a lot of resources plus the fact that there's a lot of distractions, I'm not sure that it's much better than before.
No.
I mean, I admit, it's very, very tough to disconnect from your devices. And just recently, I tried something. This is my 5th week of successfully implementing this. I told my kids on Sunday, I'm going to leave my phone at home. I'm going to go out without my phone. And, they really look forward to that Sunday because they say, okay, it's no phone day. And it means I'm really 100% on board with them, playing their board games or reading with them or doing silly things,
They become his police actually after they were like, you're looking at the like a tablet or something. He's like, no, I'm not looking at my phone. It's like checking on something else.
Yeah. Good job.
Well, but what are your thoughts about a father's role in society? What that looks like in today's context, right?
Mhm.
So there's actually we sometimes put our, like, I think in terms of the role, like we, how to say, release the role to other gadgets, for example, to parent the child, for example. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there were 3 reasons why I wrote the book Intentional Fathering, and I think that's to answer your question, and that's because I believe that's the role of fathers in society today and now and even before, is that more and more I see that fathers are absent rather than present. So I think the role of a father should always be present and not absent. The other thing I notice is that fathers tend to abdicate our role we give the excuse that so long as we bring home the bread and the bacon, we have done our job. And therefore, sometimes the lion's share of parenting rests on mothers, and we abdicate that role. So I think we should not be abdicating. Our role is to participate rather than abdicate. And the third P that I came up with is that our role as a father should be progressive rather than regressive. We don't step back, we step forward. We try to step ahead and step alongside our children when we make that journey together with them. Joel may have some ideas with a role of a father in the society, especially now
Yeah,
he's fresh from the oven father.
I thought you mentioned that earlier, right? Joe has a
Yeah.
5-month-old baby at home.
That's right. I'm happily married to my wife, Xi Ming. We married for 5.5 years now, and recently on the 8th of January this year, we welcomed our little daughter Eden into the world, into our family. So it's been an amazing journey. It's life changing. It's quite it's quite an experience that is just hard to describe. But the joy that she's brought to us and the family has been it's been a really an amazing journey so far. But I guess to the question, it's interesting. Dad and I were having a chat about it recently, and I oddly enough don't reckon that the issues that we face today in our generation, in my generation, I don't think it's any different than the issues of dad's generation, the issues of my granddad's generation. I think the issues have always been the same: the struggle with time, the struggle with distractions, the struggle with work, trying to support the family, trying to do well in your vocation, in your job. I don't think the issues have necessarily changed, but the context around it definitely has. We were just reflecting about the fact that technology has changed so rapidly in the past 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. And I think that has changed the scenery of the way we parent, in the way that I see parenting now. The issues haven't changed, the scenery has. We're dealing with voices around us that are more opinionated, louder, more present. Alex and Grace, you were just saying that the amount of screens that we have around our homes nowadays is just quite. It's hard to look anywhere and you don't see a screen.
Yeah.
It used to be, when you go to a shopping center or when you go to a cinema, you see a screen, or you drive down the highway, you might see a big billboard. But everywhere you go now, you're having a meal, you're on the train, you're seeing screens everywhere. And the voices around us are louder. And I think as parents, as fathers, that's probably where I see our biggest challenge is to still be the loudest voice, and not the loudest in terms of a forceful voice, but the most influential voice in our children's life. So that's something
Wow,
I'm navigating at the moment.
that's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, I've got an insight about the quantity versus quality time. Maybe I'll just share. When I was growing up, my dad, he was a lecturer, and while he was busy, he actually would spend quite a fair bit of time with myself and my sister. He would even drive friends of mine from school and bring them over to the house, and he would sit with us and he would encourage us to do stamp collecting, or coin collecting, or even a dissection of a rat, even. So those are the kinds of things that my dad used to do with my family. And I felt that the quantity of time that he spent with us was very important. And I'm not sure, what do you think? Is there a metric that's more important, quantity versus quality, or it's
Yeah.
both equally important?
Okay, good point that you raised, Alex. In fact, the founder of Focus on the Family, Dr. James Dobson, has excellent illustration for quantity versus quality time. He said, imagine if you were to go into a restaurant to have the finest steak. You dress up, you go to the restaurant, you look at the menu, and then you choose the most expensive steak on the menu. Then you ask the waiter to come and you said, excuse me, I'd like to have this steak. And you saw the price. It's about 280 ringgit for that steak. 30 minutes later, the guy came with a very nice plate with a cover. And then suddenly when he lifted the cover up, what you see on the plate is just a steak 1 square inch in size, and you pay 280 ringgit for it. Then you call the waiter again. You say, "Excuse me, is that all I'm getting for that steak for 280?" And the waiter said, "Yes, sir, that's what you're going to get." Then he said, "But this is so small." And then the waiter said, "Sir, it is not the quantity, it is the quality that counts, you know. Can you buy that? We can't buy that, right?" And I think it is the same thing that our children will be asking from us. It's not just the quantity time that they want, but the quality time. I remember my eldest daughter, Sarah, who used to ask me after school, you know, or rather when I come back from work, she would be at home and she would ask me, she said, "Dad, are you going out tonight?" And I would tell her, "Sarah, yes, because I've got a meeting." But there would be days when I said, "No, Sarah, I'm not going out tonight. Is there something that you want Dad to do with you tonight?" And I remember Sarah would say, "No, Dad, I just want you to be around. I just want you to be around." It's not so much on the quality, but the quantity, right? I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Wow, that's so
Nice.
good. Yeah, that's really lovely. I think, yeah, very, very true. We see that in our kids too, because they're, 6 and 8, at that age where they just keep coming with you, "Come, play with me, do things with me," and then they get upset when you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, so we're trying to balance that, especially during this lockdown when we are home all the time and they see you that you're available, but you're not available because you're in a meeting or something like that.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think it just reminds me of this quote that we both like. It says, "The days are long, but the years are short." And I constantly remind myself that, it's just a matter of years before, they might be asking for the keys, saying, "I'm going out. I'll see you later." And
Yeah.
we are there saying, "Hey, spend time with us.
Yeah,
We'd like to just watch a movie with you." And they're like, "No, I'm busy. I'm going to meet my friends," right?
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So we try to cherish as much as we can. Yeah.
Yes.
So, women, can you share with us a little bit of like some extra nuggets from this book? Like, because obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of people out there may not have read the book or seen the title even. so,
Right. Right.
so give us
Yeah.
a teaser. That would be really good.
Yeah, the book has actually 7 chapters, and I must say that it's really talking about discovering yourself. I think we all need to understand a bit about our own self, our background, the family, children, and to really accept ourselves for who we are. Sometimes we are too hard on ourselves, and I think sometimes we just got to be a little bit more generous and kind to ourselves. So the first chapter is really talking about discovering ourselves before we read the other chapters. And then the last chapter, chapter 7, I talk about the importance of being a life coach, and you are a coach, Grace, to really journey life together. I enjoy really my journey with my 3 children, and with Joel now, even as he's a married man with his own family. I try to still have that one-to-one time, the coach time with him, just to spend that time with him, to just hear him, hear his heart kind of thing. And also to be a life coach means to introduce the element of failing forward. That failing is not a bad thing. Failing is part of progress. Failing is part of learning. Failing is part of perseverance. Failing is part of acceptance of real life situation. So those are some of the things I try to capture from beginning to end. But really, the best part of the book is in between, and therefore, I think you need to get a copy of the book. Sorry to come up with a marketing angle, right?
Marketing plug.
You give us a cliffhanger, so we have to read the book in order to find out what's the best part.
Yeah.
For those of you who have just joined us, we are giving away 5 copies of Intentional Fathering Women's book that was written during the first MCO in lockdown. When he was here, women, you were stuck
Yes.
like in Malaysia, right? Or separated from
One,
your family. And you wrote
100
this
days.
book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really easy. All you got to do is that you've got to type in a question in our comments box. We're going to compile it at the end of the session. We're going to address the questions. And then after that, we'll go into a random, lucky draw sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. Thank you so much, Women, for sharing that, because I think that will be really good information for a lot of the families out there. Everybody really needs to hear this message.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joel, I have a question for you. Now that you're a father yourself, basically a 5-month-old daughter with you. Yeah, I want to ask you, what are some of the parenting legacies that your dad has passed on to you, like that you would like to carry on to the next generation?
You want me
Yeah.
to leave the room now, Joe?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Leave the screen. No, that's a great question, and it's interesting because we've already had quite a conversation around time, and time is, I mean, that's it, right? 24 hours. That's never changed. We've always had 24 hours in a day, um, and growing up, and even till now, I think I learned a bit from Dad. Dad is he is a very busy man. He's always been very involved with, I mean, work, business. Back in the day when he was running his own business, he's very involved with Focus. He's involved with church. He's involved with Scripture Union. There's so many things that he's got a hand in, and he's very passionate for. But one thing that he's always prioritized above all of that is his involvement and in the sense, his role as a father within the family. And that's always been front and center. I still remember when we were growing up. I'm talking about time and being intentional about time. Without fail, that would always. I used to go for tuition in SS2, for those of you who are familiar with it, in Malaysia, in PJ. And we, every time after tuition, he'd always make it a point that he would show up. He'd pick me up from tuition. We'd go get a chocolate milkshake from McDonald's. I still remember. And that's something that he was very intentional about. I knew, and it wasn't as if he made it seem as if he was not busy. I knew he was busy. I knew he had meetings. I knew he was busy getting things done. He was from the office, but he was very intentional to say that, I will make time to pick you up from tuition. I'll be there to meet you after school. I'll be there to spend the night with you, going through your homework, or even planning. I used to plan my exam timetable for me. I still remember which day you do math, which day you do history before leading up to each paper. He was very intentional with all of that,
Nice.
and I think that has left a legacy for me. I think to realize that, we're all busy. Everyone's busy. So that has never changed. But how do we be opportunistic in many ways about using our time to spend with our kids? How I spend it with my daughter. That's definitely one. And of course, I think respect. If you ask Dad and my granddad, his dad, respect has always been something that was very important to our family. Respect for elders, respect for our wives, our husbands, respect for people in authority. But also, I think that has definitely, in a sense, bled beyond the family. If for me, that legacy has really challenged my understanding of respect. You respect the person who is a CEO of a company, or who owns the company, but you also are respectful of the person who is cleaning up the rubbish, or cooking for a function. The person who serves you at a restaurant table. You respect people because it's worthwhile, and that respect I've definitely seen from my dad and granddad alike. So yeah.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much, Joel, for sharing. Actually, in relation to time, one of the things that we try to do is also one-on-one dates with our kids, right? Like, you want to explain a little bit about that?
Well, I think that there are times when we could even go to a mall together, but we would say, okay, mom and son, or dad and son, we would separate, and we'll just go to separate restaurants, and we just sit down, and just the two of us, we would have our own time, and then we'll regroup again, maybe an hour or an hour and a half later for dessert. And during those times, we actually get to chat. I know they're still young, but at the same time, I'll just ask them, simple questions like about their school friends, about what they enjoy playing, or what they've been drawing lately. And I know sometimes it might be tough to have a conversation with a kid for like an hour and a half, but at least we try, right? And at least we show them that we listen. I think that's
Excellent.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like sometimes in our family's generation, like our parents maybe are used to talking down to your kids, like or giving giving instructions. Okay, don't do this, do that. Eat your food faster. Okay, I know I say that a lot of times. Faster, faster. Okay, but then like those kind of conversations that are more communication that will talk about feelings or opening up like how what they think and all those kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's not so easy sometimes for a natural. It doesn't come naturally to some people, right? To do that. Yeah. So that those kind of conversations, I think we'll try to set a new culture in our homes.
Right. Yeah, I think the one-to-one time is so important, and it's so good, Alex, that you are doing with the children. I used in my first book, Parenting a Roller Coaster Experience, I say that if you talk to your child when he's 4 and 14, you probably will continue to talk to him when he's 24 and 34. But if you don't do it when they are young, and then you want to do it only when they are older, they will be thinking, "Are you feeling unwell, Dad? Why are you suddenly talking to me?" So I think it's really good to inculcate that at this formative years of their life, and I'm so glad you are doing that. Yeah, yeah,
Actually, I've got a funny story to share. So one of the pastors of my church, he shared how he would take his kids out one on one. He has got 3 kids, and he would take them out one on one every single week. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that with my dad. So I'm going to invite him out for a date instead, so that I can have one-on-one time with him. So the
yeah.
first time I tried it, I said, Dad, would you go out for dinner, just you and I? Then he was like, how about mom? I said, no, just you and I. Then he looked at me and like, what's wrong?
Exactly.
I think we
Yeah,
had a great time, honestly. Yeah.
yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I think Joe, you also brought up the topic about respect and marriage and things like that. Yeah, I think that one of the biggest components of like parenthood or parenting really is about the marriage relationship, right? A strong marriage relationship and how that can actually influence the parent-child bond. I think sometimes couples when they get married, especially when they have kids, like all the attention goes towards the kid. It's like, oh, what diaper to buy, what like what do we do tonight, how do you sleep train them, all of that information, it just gets the whole focus, everything is on the child, nothing much happens between the couple anymore. Like, yeah, what do you guys want to comment a little bit about that?
Well, I'm sort of trying to balance that right now as well. Like it's amazing, isn't it? When you wake up, we both of us immediately like, oh, is Eden okay? Is she awake? Does she need a feed? Does she need a change?
Yeah.
And I I think before, I remember before we, well, not we, well, I didn't give birth to her, but before she may gave birth to her, we did reflect before our lives changed, that we were glad that we had 5 years together, married, just both of us, before Eden came along, and I think those were really special. We got opportunity to travel, opportunity to have our ups and downs. It was not, it's not just all a bit of roses, but it was a great time to really understand each other very well. And I think because we're far from perfect, that's for sure. But I think we've learned a lot from that as a married couple. And that's something that we're able to now, I think, carry on in a way that, what we know is important to each other, whether it's time, whether it's words, whether it's affirmation or affection. That's something that we're trying to be intentional with, not forgetting that there's not just one new person who needs love. There's also the person who's always been there before for the past 5 years, who you still need to continue loving. So yeah, that's something that I'm learning through the process at the moment.
Oh, proud of you, Joe. Well, in chapter 2 of my book, I said your marriage is important. And I actually say that no book on fathering should be written without talking about our marriage. Because the role of a parent is just not one person, right? The
Yeah.
role of a parent is both parents, the father and the mother. And therefore, I think if we really want to model to our children Our marriage, therefore, needs to be given the priority and the emphasis. And we all struggle with that unless we become more intentional. I used to give this example. I said it's an oxygen mask principle. If you to be traveling on the plane, I know most of us do not get to do much over the last 1.5 years. But if you to be traveling on the plane, you will remember before the plane takes off, the air steward or air stewardess will come up and give a few announcements. And one of them would be to say that if the oxygen in the cabin were to drop, do if the pressure in the cabin were to drop, the oxygen mask is going to come down. And when the oxygen mask comes down, and if you have got a child next to you, do attend to yourself first before you attend to the child, right? And that principle basically says it's an oxygen mask principle, whereby if you are unable to breathe well, you probably can't help other people to breathe, and therefore I think we really need to take care of our marriage first in order for us to be effectively taking care of our children. And I think if we begin to emphasize on our marriage, again, studies and statistics have shown it's a safety net for our children. Children thrive and grow best in an environment where their parents are doing well in their relationship. And many years ago, Focus on the Family, we did a campaign that says, parents, the greatest gift you can give your children is not the latest tablet. The greatest gift you can give your children is not the latest toy. The greatest gift you can give your children is not the latest mobile device. The greatest gift you can give your children is to love one another. And that's the model that you really want to show to your children.
Yeah, Dan, I really agree because I remember I think I heard it from you in fact, which is so real that so much of life. I remember when I was growing up is caught rather than taught. And that phrase, you catch principles of love and honor and respect and discipline from what you see rather than being told. It's not something you read from a textbook and you absorb and you becomes part of you. It's really something you see and you then. When I grew up, I catch my times at times catch myself thinking, oh my gosh, that's what dad does, or that's what dad usually says, and it's so much of it is I caught it from dad and mom, and I wasn't necessarily taught it from like a textbook. So it is so important. Yeah.
I've got a question actually, women.
Yes.
Typically a lot of children, they spend time with their moms and moms nurture them. And by default, I think a lot of kids, they prefer to go to their moms. So what happens in a family like that when a father wants to make a stand or he wants to start, I suppose, bonding more with his children, but naturally the kids are already going towards the mother most of the time. Maybe you can give some practical steps.
Yeah, that again, there's a reason why the book Intentional Fathering came out. The answer is actually in intentionality. I think mother has got a natural connection. They have this special gift from God, whereby there is this natural way to relate with their children so much better than fathers. And the fathers, if we just think that we are as natural as our wife, then we may have just missed it altogether. We are not, right? We are just somehow or other not wired that way. And therefore, we really need to be intentional. If our children are really gravitating towards our mother, it's a good thing. But I think if we begin to become intentional, our children will begin to sense that, hey, my father wants to really connect with me as well. But this doesn't happen when they are in their late teens or in their adulthood. It probably happens when they are much younger, where you are inculcating that value and the structure within the family. The one-to-one time with the father is probably things that they would really look forward to. I'm going out with my dad. Can you imagine your 8-year-old girl telling you, I'm having a date with my dad, the kind of thing. So I think if these things are inculcated at a very young age, the tendency is that that kind of situation won't arise. They will just be as comfortable with the mother as with you as the fathers, right? And as fathers, we got to recognize it's not a competition, right? It's not like so many hours they are going to be with Grace and so few hours they are going to be with Alex. That few hours is probably all they need and all you need, right? And therefore, I think if we are able to see that, then I think we will continue to enjoy the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mothers, we will very gladly allow the fathers to become, to really take over. Especially like it's like in the middle of a Zoom call and my kids are coming to me. It's like, why don't you go to daddy? It's like, why do you come to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great because if you take that, you are proactive
Yeah.
and you
Yes.
take that first step, they see it and they will feel it too. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Sure.
it's great that we have this conversation right now, and that's it's great to have this big lofty goal of being intentional. But what are little everyday habits you think that fathers could actually implement? Very practical little things that's almost seemingly brainless. Yeah.
Well, I think setting a routine makes it easier as a father. Like for me, anyway, if I don't have any calls at night or any webinars or anything to attend,
Mm.
then I'll try to ingrain it into my life to make sure that I spend time with the kids, maybe doing devotion or telling them a story before they go to sleep. Then it becomes a routine that they
Mm.
expect.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice. They do expect they like Alexa's bedtime stories. So the only
Yeah.
thing is that my kids sometimes they complain at night when he's falling asleep when telling his bedtime story. They're like, "Daddy, you're rambling. I don't know what you're talking
And the
about."
stories are so good, they put me to sleep.
Yeah, that's okay. All of us have gone through that, Alex. We are fine.
or not all yet.
Not
We'll get
all.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
women, do you have another tip that that fathers could do? Just very simple everyday things.
Yeah, I actually, again, I want to make the book easy to read. Something that people can like. If they really don't like reading, they can still have snippets of what is happening. And if you have a copy of the book, it actually comes with a bookmark where I created an acronym for the word fathers, FATHERS. And I think on the day-to-day basis, if we can practice these six things, and the seventh day you can have a rest. That's why I came up with six rather than seven. I know father needs a rest. So fathers means being faithful, right? So a day today could be Monday. I'm going to just be a special day for my wife, right? Simple thing as that. I'm going to make sure that I say 5 times during this day, honey, sweetheart, I love you, I appreciate you, you are doing a great job, being faithful. Number two, it's to affirm our children. Sometimes we are so good at correcting our children that we have forgotten to affirm them. I used to go to this Lotus restaurant, and I remember they would have this writing on the mirror as you wash your hand. And there's this quote that says, the wrong that I do, nobody forgets. The right that I do, no one remembers. And sometimes the little thing that our children that has done right, I think affirm them. Affirmation goes a long way. Gary Chapman wrote the book, The Five Love Language, right? Words of affirmation. In fact, Joel's love language is words of affirmation. And I've got many stories which I can share on how he thrives on being affirmed. T is for being truthful. I think sometimes we only share good things with our children. We forgot about sharing our struggles. Sometimes our children wants to hear the struggles that life is real. I go through that. I got scolded by my boss. I messed up. Being truthful. H is for happy. I think when we are happy, it produces the hormone, the endorphin, that really keeps us going, that makes us want to do even more. When there is joy, there is strength, right? And therefore, we need to create that atmosphere of happiness. And the world is just full of bad news. Turn to the pages of the newspaper. We are just confronted with bad news all the time. So let us inculcate some fun, some humor, some happiness. E is for engaging. Let us engage, with our children, understand their world. Joel supports Manchester United. I'm an Arsenal fan, and therefore I want to engage with him. I better know about Manchester United a bit more, And of course, R, I think Joel has said it, and that's respect. And therefore, I think those are the little things, the day-to-day things that we can do as fathers.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for those tips. Those are really good stuff.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
actually have some questions here from the audience, right? And I think we're gonna go into that because some of these are really good questions. Okay, so are you ready?
Joe is answering them.
Hands on buzzers.
Yeah, you can point. Okay, so Regina and her husband says, I have a 12-year-old daughter, but hardly made any intentional, healthy communication with her. We're both kind of introverts, and that requires a lot of drawing out of each other. As a dad and the adult, it should be my role and responsibility, but I am not sure how I could start doing this. So basically, the daughter's 12 years old. They
Yeah.
don't really make healthy, intentional conversation.
My daughter's 5 months older.
Okay. I think was it Regina and
Yeah, her husband. Yeah, Regina and her husband.
yeah. I think your daughter is at such an excellent spot now for you to reach out to her. At 12 years old, she's probably looking for a role model in her life, looking for somebody whom she can relate to, look up to. And I think it's great if you could just, after this event, just write her a note and say, you know what, Dad would really like to have a date with you. Shall we go for, after the lockdown, obviously, can we just go for nasi lemak together? Could we just go for, a tea together? Or could we just go and take a walk together? Nothing much. Dad just thought that you are now reaching your teenage years. It's good to start somewhere. And I think children are more forgiving than we think they are, even though you may not have been doing for the last 12 years, but there's nothing being too late. Therefore, I think I would really suggest that we start when you realize that it needs to be done. And I can assure you that if you do that, you will just be, you will reap the returns later on in the life of your daughter. So I just want to encourage her to do that. Yeah.
That's great. Do you have any suggestions?
No, I think the greatest takeaway so far is the fact that children are probably more forgiving than we think.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
we judge them as adults, and adults normally they've got elephant's memory. Like you did
Yeah.
this to me once, I will never forgive you. Something like that.
Yeah, but I like the fact that like you're never too late to start.
That's right.
I think that whatever stage it is, whether your kids are teenagers already, you can still start here. And I think don't give up on your kids, right? Like
Right.
don't give up on that relationship, even though it might have been many years of very little communication.
Yeah, maybe even apologizing sometimes, saying, I know I was never there for you. I was busy, but I truly want to make a change, and being intentional about it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean they talk about being introverts. I think introverts can have very deep conversation, especially one on
Yes.
one. Yeah, it's probably great to just have that kind of one-on-one time. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
I think also just now, we been brought up Gary Chapman. I love Gary Chapman for the five love languages,
Yes.
and probably if you can detect what love language your child has, and just using that as a bridge to communicate, I think that would be totally excellent.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't really have to be in words. I mean, if it's quality time, you could just be present.
That's right. Okay, so we have another question here by Surati Hamid. She says, what should a dad do if he feels unappreciated by his family?
Joe, what happens?
Oh,
What should a dad do if he feels unappreciated by his family?
it was Surati, was it?
Surati,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, hi Surati. Thanks for the question. Well, again, I've only been quite new as a dad, but I think communication is a really key in my limited experience, but my communication has been a big part of that. Like Dad said, my love language is really words of affirmation, and part of my journey in marriage has been me and Shimeng trying to be effective with communication in a way that we share what keeps us going, what encourages us, what gives us the extra motivation day after day, what makes us, what gives us the extra spark of joy, that makes us want to go the extra mile. So I think if appreciation is something that matters to you, that means a lot to you, it's something that is worth having a open and honest discussion with your wife at an appropriate time in an appropriate manner. And I think being able to express that it means a lot to you, I think will also mean a lot to her. That definitely has meant a lot to Ximing in the way that I've told her that words of affirmation means a lot to me, and it means a lot when you give me the well done or the thank you for what you've done. And I think she appreciates that I have expressed that to her, and therefore she's also now being able to be more intentional with, in a sense, filling up my love language tank.
Very good. Very, very
Very
good.
nice.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Ding Jen says, what are some of the practical ways that you did or said to pick yourself up when you feel you failed your child? And my child's below 7 years old. So what do you
Yeah.
say to yourself to pick yourself up?
Yeah, I tell you, I have failed so many times. I wish I didn't say certain things, I didn't act certain way, I kept certain promises that I've made, and all of us, being humankind, we fail in one way or another. And I guess we sometimes, as we say that our children are more forgiving than we thought they are, we also got to forgive ourselves and not to be so hard on ourselves. The moment that we are being hard on ourselves, I find that we can't move forward. Then we are always being drawn back by our failures, the things that we didn't do, the things that we have failed upon. But I think we just got to say that, I messed up. I think the way to move forward is really to go to your child and you just say, you know what, I wish dad didn't say those words, I wish dad didn't break that promise. And I think that very fact that you are able to say that, it's bring relief to yourself and it brings progress to your relationship with your child. I think the moment that we think that we have failed and we want to try to resolve it ourselves is when we find that we are trapped and unable to move on. So I think to be able to go to a child and say that I'm sorry, I failed, and dad will try not to repeat that again. It's really a progressive step. It's really failing forward, rather than failing backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely believe in the power of saying sorry, and I think it just sets the tone right, and you model it for them to be able to say sorry in future as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Really great.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question from Wang Pei Fen, and she says, for those who did not have the privilege to have fathers who were present when they were growing up, how do you tell them that their role as fathers is so crucial? Their opinion is, my dad wasn't like that, but I grew up fine. This is Wang Pei Fen.
Yes. So could you just repeat the question? That how do you?
I think it's generally about an absent father, and therefore the husband now feels, you know, okay, sorry, okay, let me just reread the whole thing. For those who did not have the privilege to have fathers who were present when they were growing up, how do you tell them that their role as fathers is so crucial? Their
Yeah.
opinion is, my dad wasn't like that, but I grew up fine.
Yeah, I mean, really good on them. That I'm not saying that everybody who grows up in a home where there is an absentee father is bound to fail. And I think one of the reasons why they succeeded and they grew up fine is that they were probably being intentional and say that, I'm not going to put myself in a position whereby my children is going to have the kind of experience that I have. And therefore, I want to be more intentional in my role as a father. So I feel that when we begin to recognize that, then it goes a long way. It's a recognition, right? It's a recognition that, hey, I didn't have that. So for people who may have grown up in a family whereby the father is not present and they need a role modeling, and that's where I think it's good to have peer support, in a community where you can actually learn from one another. I think I'm very thankful. My father was very intentional, but I've reached out to many fathers where the fathers were not there. And because as Focus on the Family, we were able to do that. We run our father and son camp. And when we do our father and son camp, I can tell you many of the fathers who attend did not grow up in a home whereby the fathers were intentional, but there is this constant awareness that is being created, whether it's through organization like Rethink or Focus on the Family, to tell people, hey, we are here to support you, right? And as I said just now, there are now so many resources that's available to do that support.
Yeah. I
And I
think I
think
would go for a father-son, father-daughter event, or
Yeah.
something like
I
that,
sign you up.
just to get. You don't have to sign me. I'll sign
Yeah,
myself up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Peter asks, what is the critical age group to impart principles and values to your children? And his boys are aged 7, 4, and 2.
Uh-huh.
if I could take this one,
Sure.
I reckon every age, every step of the way, they every step is critical. I mean, I'm just thinking back about little, like 4 or 5. I can remember little pieces of modeling that my parents modeled towards me, that I have absorbed, whether intentionally or subconsciously, that I now outwork in a way. Every moment is critical.
Yeah.
Every moment is an opportunity. I think maybe critical is a bit quite daunting as a word, but I think every moment is an opportunity. Every moment is an opportunity to say, we're able to paint the best example, perhaps, of what it means to be, a father, a mother, a
Yeah.
friend, to your children.
Yeah, well said. I think it's definitely at every point of their life, we impart different things. It's not like there's only a moment where the window of opportunity is open, right? The window in the row.
Just looking to university, married, too late to make that step to say, let's make a change from here. If you've got breath in your lungs, take the opportunity.
Yeah, that's so good. I remember when I came back from Australia, I studied in Australia, and when I came back to Malaysia after my studies, yeah, I was more aware about like, oh my gosh, this is so weird because I had that was you do quality one-to-one in a lockdown. I think people maybe trying to like yell at one another
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, take 2 chairs, go to the front porch or to the back of the house. I think it would be so special, and say today, I'm going to spend with you Monday at 5 to 6 would be your time. Dad is going to take you to this room and we're just going to have time together to share, to do things together. You can ask Dad question, and we can do this activity together. Tuesday, then let's say if you have 2 children, it would be another child. And I can tell you, especially if they are pre-adolescent, they would think that it's such a special moment, right? I think it's really not so much on whether you go somewhere. It's really a matter of whether you are allocating and dedicating the time. Yep.
That's good. Thank you so much. That's good. You can lock yourself up in separate rooms.
Yeah.
Lock down in your house and in separate bedrooms.
And actually, that's what we sometimes do because our kids really appreciate us spending time or just sleeping over with them in their rooms on different nights.
Oh yeah. We do
Yeah.
that sometimes. So like one night I'll be like sleeping. I mean, we don't make it into a everyday thing, but yeah, they
Then it's
appreciate that
special.
special moment. Yeah. Okay, Kavrik says, what's the biggest challenge or difference in raising sons or daughters for you, Women? You're the one. We direct this to you, lah.
Well, I know my daughter is also listening in this program right now. Well, I must admit that Joel, I was a bit harder on him compared to compared to when my daughter came around. You call it the gender thing, I just somehow rather tend to be a little bit softer because they are girls. Maybe I'm just so old school as such. So I was a little bit more giving, to my girls as compared to with Joel. So I have to confess that that's what I was. But I think at the end of it, it's really the depth of your love and your sincerity, that whether they are your sons and your daughters, they would be able to figure out. You know, you could be a little bit gentler with the girls, but yet at the same time, you must be firm when there is a reason to be firm, and therefore you don't give up on those things. Those are the no compromise issues, and therefore you don't give up on that. I think with Joe, because he was our first child, you know, we are a little bit more kanchong, we are a bit more excited, and just said, hey, we make sure that we get this right, you know. So for my case, yeah, I think that was what happened. Yeah, but I think in terms of our both my wife and our love for our children, I think they know each very clearly and surely that there is no partiality. You know, we treat them and we love them as much. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Wow.
for
It's
Joel, I got to
amazing.
count. For Joel, if I get angry with him, I count 1 to 3. But with my girls, I count 1 to 10. You know, before I got angry. But I still get angry.
Well, I think it turned out all right.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Oh well, time is already it's already 9:30. Time
Oh,
flies so
yeah.
quickly when we're having
Yes.
fun. We actually have more questions, but we might have to address it like offline or something like that in the chat box.
Sure.
Because of time, we won't be able to actually answer all those questions. Feel free to also email, Focus Our Family, or even like for us, if you want to continue this conversation offline as well. Okay. But we really want to say thank you so much, Women and Joel, for being part of this conversation today about intentional fathering. I think it's really good. The things that we covered is about time. Like our kids really want time, not just quantity, quality. They really want to just have that dedicated space and time with you, right? And also a lot of things like marriage. Like it's really important how we really need to ensure that a strong marriage is the foundation of everything else that we do with our kids. So much nuggets. So, basically, any of you join us halfway through, you can actually play back the conversation later on to really listen in again. But remember, we actually have the giveaway. So, we're actually going to do it right now, where we're going to put your names in a randomizer. So we have a list of names of people who qualify for the lucky draw, and 5 of you will be getting this book so that you can go deep into the content of what's being said, the topics about respect, being faithful, affirming. Oh wow, so many different things here. So yeah. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do a fun little spinning thing. Okay, here we go. We see all the names here, and we're just gonna go and ahead and spin. Woo! Where's the music and drum roll? Oh, Catherine! Yay, Catherine! Congratulations,
Yay.
Catherine. We will contact you later on. We can spin another name. We have four more winners to go. Let's keep on spinning
So
the
maybe they
wheel.
just leave their or they can just message.
Message us privately lah.
Yeah.
Message us privately. Yeah. Okay. Next person.
Oh.
Kavrik. Yay! Congratulations, Kavrik. 3 more. 3 more to go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
All right. You got
Surati.
Surati.
Yeah,
Surati.
congratulations. 2 more to go. Pretty fun. Oh, can I begin? Remove the names actually. Okay, that's fine. All right. Drum roll, Ding Jen. Congratulations, Ding Jen. And 1 more, right? I lost count.
Yes.
1 more
One
to
more.
go. 1 more to go. And
And
it's
it's
Peter. Congratulations, Peter, our friend from Kuching.
Ah,
Yay. Okay, great. Well done.
that was
Congratulations.
fun.
That was really quite fun, actually, putting that draw. So you'll be getting this into in your mailbox soon. A courier to you. We'll be in touch with you, and just to let you know, so how we can get it out to you as soon as possible, so that you can have information at your fingertips. So that's the end of our session today. Really, thank you once again, Women and Joel, for
Thank
everything.
Having
you.
us.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us
we
here.
really appreciate your time.
It was
For
fun.
it's already like what time in Australia right now. But yeah, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. I think that you're really going to be making such a huge impact in all the fathers out there. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. You're inspiring me anyway, and
And you
let's
guys keep
take this
on doing
intentional
the good
Yeah.
fathering
job.
movement
Yeah.
beyond, beyond these walls that we're in.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Alex,
everyone.
Grace. Thanks, Joe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Grace.